Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this monthly in-depth ag forecast for Ag Carolina and AgSouth Farm Credit. Now, I feel like it's been a very long time since we've had a chance to talk, and as we dig into this, this is what I want to tell you about, okay? I want to talk about that July heat. I want to talk about some of the recent rains and the flooding we're dealing with now and compare that to recent precipitation patterns. To be honest with you, I feel as though the southeastern United States has had the most stress in this midsummer timeframe compared to other parts around the country, and I'm going to make a case for that. We've got activity coming on in the hurricane season, although I think it's going to come on now, suppress itself, and then come back on the second half of this season. I want to talk to you about the new long-range European model updates that came out in La Niña. So all that's ahead of us, and I'm even going to finish with a bit on South America. So here we go. This animation right here shows something that we've not seen in a while for parts of Georgia and North and South Carolina, and that is some very heavy rainfall hitting some drier pockets. Now, unfortunately, the way that this, drier interior sections of the Carolinas and Georgia broke their recent midsummer drought problems or flash drought problems has been with some incredibly heavy rainfall. Some places picking up several inches of rain right now. As we approach, and get into August, we're in August, of course, now. We're into the heart of the hurricane season, August, September, October being the three peak months. And so when we start to see some, pre-tropical cyclone flooding problems, we get kind of concerned. Now, yes, we've already seen Chantel come through here. This was a while ago, producing some flooding, excuse me, in and around, Raleigh, Durham, and then getting up and toward parts of Virginia as well. But here we go. We just had to talk about where this is taking us. Now, I want to show you the last 45 days because I want to make a point about other areas around the country. We saw historic flooding that hit parts of Texas back in early July. We saw a drought break in Mexico. We've seen prolific wildfires in parts of the southwestern United States, while persistent storms hit the Midwest. In fact, we've seen just over the primary corn and soybean belt a tremendous amount of rainfall. Drought issues have built along the Delta. They've been in the Northeast, where my colleague Matt Reardon is presenting to some corn growers up there that say the crop looks terrible. But what we've seen is we've had some drier pockets in Georgia and South Carolina, drier coastal areas, very wet interior in parts of North Carolina, Virginia. We're trying to figure that out. And then also just remember, for 3 months now, we've had persistent wildfires throughout parts of Canada. We have to continue to monitor that. Now, the drought monitor doesn't show us the near-term issues we've seen with rainfall, right? I mean, if you look at the newest drought monitor released on July 31st, okay, there are pockets of dryness in parts of Georgia, North and South Carolina. But it's been so hot to finish July and then so cool to start August that we have to compound the factors here to understand that there has been some flash drought development. But make no mistake, since the beginning of this summer, drought, in this whole region has largely been eliminated, and it is built into the western states. And that has primarily been due to just a prolific and powerful Bermuda high, which we talked about last month as well. So let's get into it. This is this morning as the sun is rising, and we're still watching more of these storms spread across parts of the southeast, giving us more rain as they exit. But if you don't mind, I want to dig into the tropics before we go any further with this, all right? Because just offshore here is Dexter. Now, Dexter's losing it this morning. If you just kind of watch since sunrise, the main body of the convection from Dexter here is displaced due to wind shear versus where the circulation is. And that's what wind shear can do to these systems. Overall, wind shear is a problem for tropical cyclones. It tends to disrupt their vortexes and spread out the heating and, dislocate, if you will, the main circulation from the deeper convection. Now, we've seen throughout this tropical season, across the whole of the Atlantic, time periods where our wind shear has been above average. That's what I'm tracing out for you here. But as of late, it has dropped. And if we get into the heart of the hurricane season, which is where we see the lowest Atlantic wind shear, which is right there historically, we need to pay attention if this is just a near-term thing or if this is something we're going to see a whole lot more of going forward. Because at the same time that that's occurring, our vertical instability, which has been low, that would work against the hurricane season. It's been low. As of late, it's started to come back up. And the return of normal instability means that tropical thunderstorms are going to have an easier time forming. Now, our highest instability is now through October, and that's when the tropics tend to just explode with the hurricane season activity. So to see it jumping back up toward average, as you see in these dots, is something we have to be paying close attention to. The next component would be sea level pressure. A huge and expansive Bermuda high throughout June into July has just continued to surge up and down, giving us much above average pressure across the Atlantic, which is what's driven the Bermuda High to drive all of that flow through, the Caribbean into the Gulf and into the Midwestern United States eventually. Well, we've seen as of late this drop off in pressure. And that change in the pressure is going to be critical to the kind of the ebbs and flow of the hurricane season as it gets going here. And the last thing I'm going to show you is the ocean temperatures. They are still warmer than average. Okay, and right now we've seen a little bit of an uptake in those ocean temperatures. Despite all of this, most hurricane season forecasts, like the one that's delivered from Colorado State University, some of the best in the world at doing this, have continued to drop their forecast back toward an average hurricane season. Now, I don't disagree with that at all, but I think what's going to happen with this season, it's just going to come in kind of fits and spurts. Like we're in a fit right now, in a spurt right now, and it's probably going to back off as we get later into the month of August and then resurge again at the end of the season. But by all measured, parameters of a hurricane season, the newest updates are to take these back closer to their historical averages. But in every category right now, we are above the historical averages for this hurricane season. So I want to give you a picture of this, and now I want to tell you what to be watching, okay? So first of all, in the next 7 days, Dexter dies in the North Atlantic Ocean. We're going to watch just off our southeast coast for the development of another tropical system. But given the behavior of the Bermuda High, anything that develops here is not coming on shore. It's going out to open ocean. There's no indication of that. Right now, over the next 7 days, the National Hurricane Center is saying, hey, watch this area for the development of a tropical system. But given that the Bermuda High is going to slide over here, we don't have a lot of indication of what develops is going to be moving toward the Carolinas. What's not shown on this is 10 days from now. This is only a 7-day outlook. I'm watching about 10 days from now something here that we have to give a nod to. We have to look at carefully. You're going to see it barely in this animation. Now, what this animation is showing you here is the European ensemble, which is run 51 different times, and you're looking at the model attempting to predict where tropical systems could form over the next 10 days. So that's Dexter. That's the 40% chance of development here. See how it's going offshore? There's that 50% chance that's staying way over here east of Bermuda even. What I want you to watch is late in the forecast. Let me just show it to you when it comes up here. Not this guy, but this. See this thing coming out here? And the models continue to press it farther and farther to the east. Now, this only goes out 10 days. Day 10 through 15, there are some indications of development over the Lesser and Greater Antilles. And at any time we see something like this in the models, and it's August, September, October, we don't ignore it. Now, if it's back in like June and July, we're like, okay, it's a phantom storm system in the models. It's very rare to get something to develop like that. But this time of year, we have to look at it. So here you go. This is now 204 hours from now. So when is that? That's next Thursday. We're getting out there day 8, 9, and 10. And what you see is that the models are trying to develop something here while they put higher pressure over us. Now, what's so critical about that? When you have high pressure that develops ahead of a tropical system, we have to watch the interplay between these two things. If this high pressure cell moves out, remember the flow around a high pressure system is clockwise, which could take any system that's developing here and pull it toward us. Now, at this particular stage, we're too far out in the model to see if that's going to happen. But I'm out here looking, trying to see if there is something robust coming into the models that we need to be paying attention to. But again, it's after mid-August. This is like August 15th, 16th. I'm all the way out to the 20th here. So we're watching it. It's not just in the European. It's also in the artificial intelligence. See it? There it is. Now, the artificial intelligence is taking that high, see it there? And it's moving it way over here, which is now starting to bring whatever this thing is closer to the Carolina coast. Now, listen, this is not hype. This is not, I'm not trying to get you worried. I'm just telling you it's the time of year where stuff like this can happen. We are way, way, way out here in model la-la land, but I want to make you aware that we've got multiple models attempting to do something like this. Now, the GFS, this is the 6Z run, nada, doesn't have it. It's got a weak little wave going over Cuba. But the previous run to that, this would be the 0Z run, it had a little bit more of a robust system, but it did not, see it right there, take it over toward the southeast coast. It instead took it into the Bay of Campeche. So what's the point here? The point is to say that the model spread is going to continue to be high on this system. Here's what the ensembles are saying. This is now Saturday the 16th, Sunday the 17th, Monday the 18th. And I just want you to be aware that at that time frame, whatever leaves Africa over the next 8 or 9 days has the chance at developing here. So please watch this. It's going to be after the 15th, but it's something I want you to stay aware of. Now, bigger picture, after the 15th, I think a little bit of a lid gets put back on the tropics, and then it wakes itself back up once we get into the month of September. And I'll make a case for that for you soon, but I want you to know that right now we've got these things to be contending with when it comes to the tropical season. Now, again, a lot of this is predicated on what has been a dominant Bermuda high sliding a bit farther off in this direction. The map shows you from the beginning of June to the beginning of August where the Bermuda high has largely been, and it has been dominant, expansive, and a tremendous component to why this particular summer has shaped up the way that it has. If that starts to slide off and just move a little bit, that's going to be the concerning case for when the tropics can start to send systems toward the southeast. Now, where are we? It's beginning of August, and I just want to make a point again. When you look at these statistics on where the season could possibly go, understand that it only takes one storm. You all know that very, very clearly. But if I had to make a bet on the way this season's going to go, I'm going to bet on the second half of the season after September 15th more than I'm going to make a bet on the front half. And you're going, wait a minute, you just said there's a system that could be coming. I know, but what I'm thinking here is that this is a back half weighted season. Okay, so please keep in mind September 15 to November 1, that 45-day stretch could likely be our more active time period. If I'm wrong on that, I'm going to tell you, but I just want to keep you aware of what I'm thinking about here. Okay, let's get back to what's going on right now. This is just a radar animation from last night into this morning on August the 6th. And again, we're watching some of these heavy rains move through this area. If we take a look at how much rainfall we got across the country just in the last 3 days, let's focus in on the southeast just to show you that we've got places in here that picked up 6-7 inches of rainfall, creating flooding problems in this area. Now, what's important to understand is look at this region that just got all this rainfall and then compare it to where we were in the month of July and into early August. That was one of our drier spots. We were drier at times along the coasts. We were drier down here in south central parts of Georgia. We were drier in that corridor with the wettest conditions being here, which we kind of labeled on that graphic earlier. One other thing to point out, dry in the mid-Mississippi and lower Mississippi Valley and through this area. Really, we call this the Delta. Very wet in the Corn Belt, extremely dry where our wildfires are in the western United States, dry in the Northeast. But there's been a very active corridor in through here that we need to keep a close eye on going forward because of what it's done to the corn crop. And yes, many of you are growing corn and soybeans that compete against this. I also want to point out we've had better rains on the cotton crop in Texas than we have had in the southeastern United States. And that's always going to be a point of, to elaborate on as we get through a season as to who's got the better looking cotton crop overall. Severe weather in the month of July hit parts of North Carolina and Virginia really hard, but we had more sporadic severe weather events in parts of South Carolina and Georgia. So overall, if you said, well, where was most of your severe weather? It was central North Carolina into Virginia up to the mid-Atlantic, and then this large section of the Midwest and Western and Central Plains that was hit hardest with severe storms. As we think about where we're going here in the near term, we do have flood watches out already for parts of Georgia and North Carolina. This is all wildfire smoke, but our greatest and most excessive heat is in the southwestern United States after what was an incredibly hot July for the southeast. So let's take this and kind of move forward with it. Smoke-wise, the Canadian wildfires continue. We also have large fires that are in the southwestern United States, but look at the smoke here. We have to pay close attention to this because that smoke over the next 48 hours is going to continue to occupy a broad section of the Northeast, much of the Central Plains of the United States, and orbit around a big area of high pressure here. To be honest, we're one of the least smoky places in the country right now, given that these fires are putting deep plumes of smoke across much of the rest of the country in the near term. Now, if you look at the flow, can you see it kind of orbiting around here? There is a large ridge of high pressure sitting in this area, and that's where all your heat is. And we have lows that are stacked up that are going to run through the Canadian prairie while we deal with the flow around a high here that's bringing in this moisture from us or for us out of the Gulf, And we've got cooler air in this trough. And we've actually started off this month of August with much cooler air as it's repositioned itself over the south and west. So if we take a look at where it's going to go, let's just take a look at the near-term forecast. This is simulated radar reflectivity through the rest of the day today on the 6th, getting into the 7th, and eventually here into the 8th. And there's a lot of scattered rainfall from what's left of this frontal boundary interacting with that high pressure cell just sitting off the coast. So there's still more flooding issues to be had as we just work our way through the next 60 hours. That's what I'm running back and forth over here for us. So please be aware that some of these storms will be able to drop quite a bit of rainfall. Bigger picture though, been working on a new color bar for you. I'm excited to release this on agweather.com soon. This is what we see the precipitation pattern doing. So you can see that through the weekend into early next week, most of this is coming this weekend, late this week into this weekend. There it is there. And then we've got heavy rains hitting the Canadian wildfires needed, more rain for the Midwest here, but there's a drier corridor in between, which we should probably pay close attention to, because as I play this out there fully into next week, that's how the next 2 weeks looks like. So there's some tropical development off the coast, but it's not coming onshore. It's mainly going to go this direction. And we have to question how much longer we're going to get these thunderstorms we've seen as of late. But there's no doubt that this is our most active corridor and continues to be, while we're going very dry into Texas and have a drier stretch into this area. Just a couple of pieces to be on the lookout for. Severe weather is primarily going to stay well away from us. You can see that over the next 3 days, getting us all the way out to Friday here, it's in the northern plains. Doesn't mean we don't have storms, but the severe weather's north. We do have the slight risk today of the flooding that we need to keep an eye on, according to the excessive rainfall outlook from NOAA. All right, but back to it. Is there anything about the pattern that looks dangerous to me? I'm always, this time of year, looking for big ridges of high pressure to slide over the southeast. In the near term, they're in the southwest. And I just don't see any big domes of high pressure building in over the next 15 days or so. And I think that's important to understand as we look out here at the temperature and precipitation pattern. Because you put all the next 15 days together, the AI model's putting a big ridge there and a big ridge here, which means the flow is going to come over the top like that. And that keeps the excessive heat away from us, but it also doesn't shut down fully the precipitation pattern. So that's why over the next 15 days, if it's drier, it's where that ridge is, and it may extend into this area. We're wetter, a lot of this coming right now, just so you're aware. But over the next 15 days, there's a wetter signal overall for Ag Carolina territory. But again, I want to reiterate, a lot of this is right now over the next 7 days. If you look out there through the day 8 through 14, maybe a little drier into week 2. But the next 7 days, most of that being dominated by these next 3, bringing in the moisture into this area. Just to compare models, this is the 15 or 14-day outlook from the European. That's the 14-day outlook from the GFS. It's very similar. A lot of moisture now. But if you look purely at week 2, the GFS is wetter. Tennessee Valley, Ohio Valley, trying to bring some of that moisture into us as well. What's my main point here? I don't have a strong signal for you right now that you're sliding back into drought after the recent rainfall and the rainfall I got forecast for the next few days comes through. That's the main story. In fact, if you look at the probabilities here, we got a pretty high chance of grabbing another inch or 2 of rainfall, especially out of the near-term rainfall setup across this region. The drier spots, let's just show you, they're here. Okay, that's where we're looking drier over the next 10 days. So that does include the Cotton Belt down here in parts of Texas and Oklahoma. Keep a close eye on that, all right? Okay, bigger picture. For those of you growing corn in the Carolinas and Georgia, I want to point out that the primary corn and soybean belt just set a new record for NDVI. It is the best NDVI values that we've ever observed, and I tell you that when I say the word ever, our data only goes back to 2001 during this satellite era here. And you can see that they're firing on all cylinders in that area. Plenty of moisture. Really, to be honest with you, limited heat. They had some hot overnight lows in the eastern Corn Belt, which has hurt some of the pollination. But overall, the crop looks very, very healthy from space. Now, I can't say the same for parts of the southeast. I pulled up your NDVI data for Georgia, North and South Carolina. And you're on your historical average, but you're way behind where you were a year ago, which is in this color line here. That was 2024. So we were doing well early, but lately we've seen a downturn in this. And I think a lot of that has been attributed to the excessive heat we saw in the month of July. We were burning up crops that did not get the sporadic thunderstorms that came through. and overall very, very hot. Now, I was out here. I was in, I flew through North Carolina. I apologize. I flew through North Carolina back a week ago, and when I landed in Charlotte, it was 100 degrees. I then flew down to Jacksonville to meet with a group out of Georgia, and it was so hot where we were on Amelia Island. My feet are still, I hate to tell you this, but they're still peeling from the blisters I got a week ago just running about 50 yards on the beach to get into the water. We had an afternoon where we can go out to the beach, and holy smokes, was it hot. Now, these hot temperatures have since, gone away, and this is how the month of August has started. Now, it's still very hot in Florida and some of these southern counties in Georgia. But the cold front that dipped through finally broke these long-standing temperature records we were dealing with and finally brought in a little bit of cooler air. So how long is that going to last? Well, you can imagine that with the cloud cover we got today, the temperatures are staying cooler. All the heat's in the south and west. Tomorrow, still cooler. Getting out there to Friday, still cooler. Love this. Saturday, still cooler. Look at this. Sunday, still cooler. Monday, hey, we got 5 more days of cooler than average conditions that are going to stick around. But I wouldn't get, as you know, it's August. I wouldn't get too used to it because as we look out there longer term, yep, that's the next 5 days. Day 5 through 10, it starts to go back toward normal. And day 10 through 15, the models are trying to warm up coast to coast across the country as the jet stream retreats way to the north. What's the wild card out here? We just got to know if some sort of tropical system is coming into this area that could introduce cloud cover and more rainfall. We do not know yet if that's going to be the case. Okay, that was a pretty quick trip through history to try to understand where we are and also a look out at the next 2 weeks. What I'm going to now spend some time doing is trying to dissect where I think this is going to go as we move forward. All right, hazardous heat through the 3rd week of August could return to the northeast, could be in the Mississippi and Missouri Valley, and also out here in the west, but we don't see it coming back to our region in the near term. What are we seeing in terms of longer term precip? Well, we know this is the next week. We've talked about that. Week 2, a little bit of a drier signal, right? We talked about that coming through. But as we get out there, look at this. This is now when that potential tropical thing comes out of this area. The ensembles are trying to sweep in wetter conditions into week 3 and week 4 into Ag Carolina territory, AgSouth territory, right? So I just want to point out to you that 3rd week of August is still looking wet and stormy. And overall, as I play into the end of August and the beginning of September, I'm not seeing overly dry, scary signals for us in the southeast. I'm just going to say that time frame, be watching out for development here or something coming out of the tropical Atlantic. I think this is going to be a back half weighted season. So you put it all together and say, well, just show me that 30-day stretch. It could be drier there, but I don't see the risk in this area. You're going, wait a minute, what's going on here? No. Model artifact. Don't look at that too carefully. Supplemental piece to that. Why are we seeing all the tropical activity right now? Well, if you look, here's right now. Okay, this is a weird diagram. This is today all the way through September 16th. And you're looking at where the atmosphere can create rising motion in these colors and sinking motion in those colors and where it is geographically. So right now, the lid is off. Okay, that's geographically where this is. See it? The lid is off the tropics. But we expect the lid to come back on as we get through later in August. And that means we could see just a small bit of suppression of the tropical season before it comes back on, look, in September. And that's why I'm saying watch out after the start of September and beyond for the tropical season to get going again. What I want to know is if we put the best rising motion in the world over phase 3 and 4 of the MJO, do we actually get this type of a pattern? Now, this is what happens. You tend to put a bigger ridge in through this area. Flow goes over the top of it. There tends to be lower pressure that forms here more often. And we tend to, in this pattern, get stuck in between with not so much heat because our flow is kind of coming out of the north and west or north and east anomalously. And we tend to be okay in precip. Okay, that's not a bad look. This would say, hey, there's more heat and drought risk for the middle of August and September in the midsection of the United States, not for us. But what I want to know is if this weakens the Bermuda High, do we get more systems out of the tropics that could possibly influence us? Now, if you're going, what are you talking about? I'm just saying there's this thing called the MJO, and it's trying to move back to phase 3-4. And historically, phase 3-4 tends to put a ridge in the middle part of the country. And if there's ridges in the middle part of the country, they're not over the south and east. That's the story. Okay? So does the CPC buy into it? Maybe. Blow this up so you can see it. This is their August outlook. Let's go back to it there. Sorry. There it is. That's their August outlook. And you can see the heat here. So this, again, suggests more ridging in the atmosphere somewhere in this area. And if that's the case, we tend to be drier in the southwest, and we tend to see wetter conditions in the southeast. Now, of course, this is going to be accurate because the first few days of August have been very wet down here. So when you average the whole month, yeah, we're going to see it. But they've also got it in their week 3, week 4 forecast. See that? Where's the heat? It's west. And it's wetter down here. So let's keep an eye on this. Now, beyond this, let's talk about bigger picture things. The Atlantic is still very warm. And the trend, if we look at this closely, has been to keep it warmer. It's warm here. And I go, what's going on off the coast? Well, we've had a lot of tropical activity trying to develop here and move out. We've had the fronts come through and sweep through this area, cooling off these waters. That's what's happened as of late. But this is warmed up while we've seen some intermixing of cooler water there. And the net effect of that is we still have the lingering effects of a La Niña going through. And I got to ask, what's that going to mean as we step this out and look out there longer term? So I'm going to show you the European model first, then I'm going to come back to the Climate Prediction Center. I'm going to finish somewhere in another hemisphere. So here you go. European model right now is projecting weak La Niña conditions going into fall and early winter. And what the model's doing with it? This is what history would say they should do with it. We tended to be in fall a little bit drier than average when the La Niña starts to peak during this time frame. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. Could we be drier in here? Yes, but not in the south and east. Because some of the models are doing this. This is the August, September, October outlook. See how they've got us wetter, suggesting that we don't see fall drought development in this area. What about just looking at September, October, November? You're going, well, it flipped. Well, I understand that. But I think this model's lost all sense when it gets out here. It's really losing a stronger signal as we get fully into fall. And it's overall got fall transitioning drier for you. But is that consistent with the overall picture? Well, it's consistent with history. But I don't think this is one of those falls that does that. Now let me make a case for you by going back to the longer range outlook from the Climate Prediction Center. What does September, October, November look like from the Climate Prediction Center? See, they're not as dry as the European model was. And if we come up here and say, well, let's go out to October, November, December, again, they're suggesting if there's dryness, it's maybe in the southwest United States, not over us. So with these competing factors, I don't think that history wins out. This is what history would suggest. And again, I'm going to tell you the same thing I just mentioned at the beginning of this video. Be prepared for the risk of a second half weighted tropical season. Watch from early September through October. Yes, there's activity coming in the next 2 weeks. We made a case for that. But I think it's going to be coming on later in the season, not now. So don't trust this correlation map. I don't like it right now. Okay? So where does that land us? Well, again, we come back to this and just remember that even though the models are going drier during this time frame, my wild card is going to be the Caribbean and any sort of development just off the southeast coast of the United States. And to be honest, this is a wash. This isn't like it's gone really, really dry. It's just a little bit drier than average. So you're going, Eric, that feels like you're giving me mixed signals out here. And I'm telling you, I am, because the top thing that we don't yet know is if the Bermuda high comes back and does its normal thing, man, you're opened up to moisture. And I think it's going to do that. Okay? So one last thing to point out. Let's give the model the benefit of the doubt here. And let's say, all right, it's got it right for October and November. If the Brazilian monsoon does in fact come on early, South America is going to plant a crop very, very quickly in this area. It's going to open their crop calendar. We are looking at drier risks into southern Brazil and Argentina, where it's been dry. Argentina's been quite dry this winter, and we have to keep an eye on that. But what I'm worried about is that South America could, go into an early and rapid planting season. Anything that causes delay in the planting of the soybeans at the beginning ruins the entire crop calendar for them. So we need to watch carefully to see if this manifests itself and if the model's right for the October rainfall returning with their monsoon. Now, later in the season, if we do have typical La Niña behaviors, the risk of being drier down here begins to increase, and that could be important on the global stage. But I want to keep an eye on it. I'll keep you updated when we talk next month. But that's it. That's what I want to talk about. Please listen. Just you know the drill. You need to be watching the National Hurricane Center's website day in and day out right now to stay ahead of where these tropical systems are going to be. So please do that, and we'll talk again next month. Thanks.